Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, oh, come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA, Talk 1580, download the app.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It's Wealthy Wednesdays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, where we have regularly our conversations with Atiba, and in the second hour, Dr. S. Pod Yeri, all things political in our faith. Atiba, former Deputy Executive Director for the National Caucus of Black State Legislators. He is Strategic Alliance Consultant and President of Party Politics US. He's worked as a TV political contributor for BNC News, The Heat, In the Know with Mo, The Leslie Marshall Show, iHeartRadio, GovExec 96.3 WHUR, and one of the news networks. He most recently was a guest host on Rising, an American Daily News, an opinion web series produced by Washington, D.C. political newspaper, The Hill. Atiba, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you, Jesse. It's always good to be with you. But every time you do that introduction, I'm wondering, who is that guy?
At some point in time, I'm going to say, I don't believe he needs an introduction. But I am so honored that we have these conversations. We have a very special guest who will also be joining us this hour, Janae Smith. Her life shifted dramatically when her father passed away suddenly, and her mother was diagnosed with dementia soon thereafter. Trained as an engineer, product engineer, and lawyer, she became a full-time caregiver. She sought refuge in comedy, discovering both healing and a new calling as J Smiles. She has since performed nationwide and abroad, sharing stages with comedy greats while weaving her caregiving journey into her art. In 2020, she launched the podcast Parenting Up, Caregiving Adventures with comedian J Smiles, to create a space for caregivers to lead with levity because humor actually heals. I'm very much looking forward to our conversation with J Smiles. Janae, I just want to say hi to you right now. Hi, Janae.
Hi, how are you, Jesse?
I'm certainly grateful that you're with us today, and boy, we have so much in common, and so does Atiba on this question of caregiving. But to introduce our program, let me allow our regular co-host and contributor to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, our conversations with Atiba, to set the stage for the next hour. Atiba.
Yeah, thank you, Jesse, for that. And Janae, thank you so much for being with us. Janae, first off, in terms of your journey, I feel like it would be impolite for me not to share that we have known each other for the better part of 25 plus years. And
Are
knowing
you
both
sure?
of you,
I'm just 32.
well, well, I'm not going to say where we met then. Um,
The Atiba files. Release the Atiba file.
but that said, as you know, Jesse wrote a very profound opinion editorial a few weeks ago about caregiving. And I know that the country and the world know the story of his father and all the amazing things that his father accomplished and did over his life. And now Jesse has started telling the story more publicly about, what has been going on behind the scenes from a caregiving standpoint. So very gracious and very grateful to Jesse for starting this conversation. And it's a conversation that I'm sure that families and people are having, and friends among friends, for years, but in terms of the national dialogue as this goes along. But as we stage this conversation, as you and I have spoken about this, I was hoping that you could first also tell us a bit about your father and your mother and you before we get into where your life changed a few years ago.
Okay. It is my honor and my pleasure to be here. It's a little thing that many of you were viewership and
Janae, I'm having a technical problem. Janae, Taz, I need to turn up Janae's mic. Taz, before we come forward, I want to just chat with Atiba for a moment while we fix this small technical problem. Atiba, I am totally, since we wrote the article, amazed at the people who are entering the space. This large number of Americans, including Janae, who have had to provide care for a loved one, that from my perspective, the government of the United States, both federal and state, are missing this huge number of people who are moving through our system, who they take advantage of our love. The system itself is not prepared to provide them the kind and the quality of care that is worthy of human dignity. And knowing that we'll be coming forward in about another 30 seconds, I just would like to hear from you within this 30 seconds on what that possibly means.
Yeah, and when you did the introduction, you talked about that I worked for the National Black Caucus of State Legislators, which is actually why I'm in Mississippi right now for their annual conference. And it's here, among other policymaking organizations, that I think these conversations need to be front and center, because there are so many of our elected officials that can tell the same stories. But in terms of where we are from a policy standpoint, that's where I'm very excited and very happy, Jesse, that you brought this conversation to the forefront, because that's where the rubber is going to meet the road in terms of how we address this and make it easier for caregivers instead of making it harder.
When we come forward, I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We're talking about caregivers in this hour, and I'm very much looking forward to our guest and our conversations with Atiba. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Break out the champagne. Everybody get a glass.
KBLA Talk 1580 congratulates our own Keith Underwood, host of the weekend entertainment show Black in the Green Room, on his recent honor at the annual National Arts and Entertainment Journalism Awards. Keith received a first place award presented by the Los Angeles Press Club for his entertainment reporting, and we couldn't be prouder. Congratulations, Keith, from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.
If you've been diagnosed with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis, this is what it sounds like to be a million miles away. Imagine being a million miles away. Tremfya guselkumab, taken by injection, is a prescription medicine for adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who may benefit from taking injections or pills or phototherapy. With Tremfya, clearer skin is possible. In clinical trials, at least 70% of patients saw at least 90% clearer skin at 16 weeks. Results may vary. Tremfya is also indicated for adults with active psoriatic arthritis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Ask your doctor about Tremfya. Call 1-800-526-7736 or visit tremfya.com.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Imagine a Los Angeles where everyone can thrive, where communities have access to the resources they need to succeed. That's the vision of Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. They're dedicated to improving life in LA County by providing educational support, employment assistance, and spaces for community engagement. By 2050, they want LA to be the best place to connect, create, learn, live, and play. They're working toward an education system that's well-resourced and culturally responsive, becoming a hub for artists and innovators, and making sure everyone has access to healthy food, quality healthcare, and safe housing. It's about building a future where we all have the chance to succeed. We invite you to learn more about their mission and get involved with Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
250 years ago, a promise was made to connect families and friends near and far. And during the holidays, that promise is more important than ever. That's why USPS is building a better network to meet your needs with timely deliveries, easy and affordable ways to ship, and everything you need to make your season full of holiday cheer. Our purpose is delivering your peace of mind, knowing your love will arrive, bringing joy to all. The United States Postal Service. Learn more at USPS.com/holidays.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on Wealthy Wednesdays. Our conversations with Atiba. Atiba, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. And Janae, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show as well. Janae and Atiba, the conversation is under your direction.
Thank you, sir. So Janae, as I was mentioning, what I was hoping is that you could give us just a little bit of background about your parents and then you as a family. And then we can go into talking about how your life changed when your mom was your mom's diagnosis.
Absolutely. My pleasure. My father is deceased. His name is Jock Michael Smith. I guess some of the high points would be that he was the only Black man to have a national partnership with Johnnie Cochran. My father was the cornerstone of what we now know as the National Cochran Firm. He was very close to Mr. Cochran. I'm still very close to Mr. Cochran's widow. My dad was a pillar of the community. He did a lot of things in terms of civil rights, and he did a lot of things in terms of the law. He represented the estate of Mrs. Rosa Parks. He represented the King family. And at the time that he passed, he actually had the largest verdict for an African-American lawyer in the nation, $1.6 billion. And a little known fact is that while he was doing all of this juggernaut legal stuff, his true passion was always sports, specifically baseball. And from 1985 until his passing in 2012, he amassed the largest collection of game-worn sports memorabilia in the world. more than a black man, more than a
Wow.
white man, more than a Jewish person, more than a Chinese person. And I call it a great legacy of my life was that after my dad's passing, I was able to ink a deal with the Smithsonian. And so our collection is my family's collection that I am spearheading. We're now we're really the reason why the sports gallery exists in the National Museum of History and Culture, also known as Blacksonian for anybody in DC. My mother is originally from Montgomery, Alabama. My dad is a New Yorker, but they met in Alabama. My mom was a part of the civil rights movement as a young girl, and she patterned her entire life around following Dr. King and individuals like Jesse's father. They marched together a lot. She was jailed, all the things. What she decided to do was, hey, how can I keep pushing forward the poor people's campaign? And so my mother, by trade, is a CPA. She was a forensic accountant, expert witness. She was the first woman of any color to have the type of consultancy firm that she had in the nation. So she made sure that utilities, gas, electric, light, telephone, kept our rates reasonable. And so they hated her for it. They actually tried to kill her a few times. I got a picture on the bookshelf behind me about that. So the really odd thing about me becoming a caregiver is my parents were so healthy and self-sufficient, or so I thought. My dad had a massive heart attack on the couch at 62 years old. My mom at 62 was within 3 months of my dad passing, was diagnosed with 2 forms of dementia. So I'm an only child. I grew up not having to help them do anything. They didn't ever need $5 from me. They didn't ever need me to help them turn on their cell phone. They were texting, and they had a BlackBerry before I did. I ain't had the money. They did. So I wasn't prepared to have to help or to have to step in. The life I created, I went to Howard, I went to Stanford, became a lawyer. I was living and working between Africa, Europe, and the United States. Wow. Really combining my love of advocacy, which is a part of me being from Montgomery, Alabama, to help young African girls and women really have a better way at STEM things, and to use my design connections with in Italy to make all that happen. And then to come back to America and get the seed capital. And all that was working great. And then literally overnight, it all blew up. And I needed to run my dad's law practice, run my mom's consulting firm, keep my life going. Oh, and figure out, is my mama gonna die? No. Is she? Is she dying? Because no one had told me that a traumatic event in life could trigger the early onset of Alzheimer's. So it took us a minute to determine what it was.
I'm just sitting here with my mouth wide open because the trajectory of your life was on one path, and then the care of loved ones suddenly changed the trajectory, which obviously can come at great costs. I mean, it is almost as if stepping into the ring, someone literally knocks you out. And, my father, in my case, Atiba, is, a 240-pound, 6'4", 6'6" individual who literally has to be maneuvered. Now, the onset of dementia, that is a parent who literally can wander down the street and you not find them, from someone who is as extremely as capable of Miss Smith's father, a leader in the Cochran firm, if not the main person behind Johnny Cochran, all the way to having to provide not only for him, but then ultimately providing for her mother. And that is a career-changing event. And it is happening to more than 63 million Americans as we speak. Tiba?
Yeah, and so, in terms of going into that, thank you, Janae, for sharing that. Also, so how did you embrace that, or how did you deal with that? Because you also had mentioned the sports collection and the museum, and we know you're Jay Smiles, you're a comedian. So how did you, what was that adjustment like for you, and how did you get to here?
The adjustment was chaotic. It did not look cute. It wasn't cute. It wasn't pretty. I made a lot of mistakes. And by mistakes, I'm really speaking of my self-care, what I would do to manage who am I going to be in this new normal. To be really honest with you, I didn't believe them when they said my mom had two forms of dementia, Alzheimer's and normal pressure hydrocephalus. They said, oh, you're going to have to keep her for the rest of her life. And I was like, what are you talking about? She's fine. She has a business. The only thing this woman is known for is her brain. How can her brain be broken? I would have been better with like liver cancer. Not that I want her to have cancer, but it would have made more sense. I was like, it cannot be her brain. That's all that everyone celebrates about her. So when it became obvious that my mother really could not manage any of her affairs, like within 90 days, she could not drive. She couldn't write a checkbook. She didn't even know if she was going to the bathroom on herself. And I said, okay, all right. I got to figure this out. Now, I got into family business mode, right? This is survival, and it's the world against me and my mama. And on behalf of my daddy, I got to take care of his boo. Now, what happened though is I gained a bunch of weight. I almost had a stroke. I was doing very unhealthy things, alcohol, maybe some drugs. I know this is a family show. What I'm going to say is I made it through the point and through the time, but it was awful because in order to care for my mother and get my parents' affairs in order, I had to literally leave myself out of the equation. It really did stink. And it was actually my physician who told me, hey, Jay, you're going to die before your mom if you don't change something. About 2 or 3 years into my mom's diagnosis, she said, your numbers are going all in the wrong direction. You're not sleeping. You're on the verge of a stroke. You got to switch something up. And at the end of the switch up was comedy. She told me to try to find a hobby. It was on Groupon, and I saw a class. I thought I was just going to have a way to blow off steam rather than picking up Remy Martin 17 or 38, which is what I was drinking for 2 years straight. I said, I'm going to go to this comedy class. I'm going to meet some new friends. They don't know who I am. They not going to ask me for nothing, because I also got to say it was a lot of stress with all the people who decided that they figured my daddy left me $5 billion and they wanted some. I'm like, hey, there's no Mackenzie Scott over here. I don't know what y'all are thinking, but most of those verdicts were severely reduced. I mean, I'm good, but I ain't got $5 billion. So comedy came literally throughout a medical crisis for me. And I ended up falling in love with it. Jay Smiles was born. And ultimately, about 5 years after I started comedy, we go into the pandemic. The pandemic hits. I cannot perform live because I'm worried that I may bring the virus back to my mom. And that is when the Parenting Up podcast started. And that really was my stronghold into becoming a care advocate globally and throughout the nation.
I'm so identifying with your path, because wherever there's comedy, there's also mass tragedy, and wherever there's mass tragedy, out of the trauma comes a humor and comes a response to it that really means self-care, that you have to make light of very, very serious subjects. And I don't think everyone fully appreciates that. I know that we're going to have an even more fascinating show, and we've got at least 3 more minutes left in this segment. But in our own family this morning, Atiba, I woke up to my mother allowing friends to see my father. Someone took a picture of him, and then that picture became part of a newspaper article. And we've been walking back all of this day, the narrative of the access that we gave to a family friend who then had a photographer who then sold the picture, and then reeling it all back in, which has nothing to do with the individual care, in addition to what someone else took upon themselves to notify the public what they think they had a right to do. So I'm sitting here saying to myself, if it weren't so serious, it would be laughable. Because the only way to handle it is to say, isn't this just us? I mean, isn't this just us taking advantage of a person's tragedy, a family's tragedy? It's hard enough, Janae, on its own without someone engaging it and trying to make a selfie or a snapshot or a newspaper story or be a sudden reporter to the tragedy of it all. So what I want to say is, I am so proud of you. I'm proud of the healing that you're sharing with us that came from how you took the traumatic experience of the tragedy of dementia and the loss of memory, which our family is dealing with, but then you made light of it. I mean, my brothers and sisters and I are laughing at some things today that we have never laughed at. And we laugh at people who in our sadness, don't know the joy that we're finding in this hour and in this moment. With that said, we have about a minute before we come forward. Atiba, I'm gonna let you take us out.
Yeah. And Janae, if you will allow me, when I think about your father, often I told you, like, meeting your dad was like one of the greatest things for me, because it was the first time I had seen an African-American man who was doing all these different things. And I'm rocking right now because I'm thinking about your dad with something that he said. He talked about how he was using the sports memorabilia collection, that part of which is now, and Jesse, to give you an idea, Jesse Owens' track shoes from the 1936 Olympics are in that collection. They're in the museum.
Wow.
Serena Williams' iconic outfit from the U.S. Open is in that museum. But there are other things. Muhammad Ali's boxing gloves and robes that I can actually say I physically put on. But his stories that he'd used with that sports memorabilia collection, particularly talking to young people and kids and motivational speaking, was about how these people went from tragedy to triumph. So in terms of what we're talking about today and how you just eloquently spoke about with Janae and her story, I'm going to stop, this is about going from a tragedy and figuring out ways that we can get to a triumph.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to KBLA Talk 1580. More with Atiba on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show when we come forward.
The biggest names, the best conversations. You're riding with Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. At a rally in Pennsylvania Tuesday night, President Trump defended calling Somali immigrants garbage, then claimed black people, quote, know a scam better than anybody, end quote.
I got the biggest vote with black people. They know a scam better than anybody. They know what it is to be scammed.
He says black people love him despite most black voters supporting Kamala Harris in 2024. Martin University in Indianapolis will pause operations at the end of this semester due to declining enrollment and financial challenges, according to its board of trustees. Founded in 1977, it's the only predominantly black institution of higher education in Indiana. And former Education Secretary Rod Page has died at the age of 92. Page was the first Black American to hold the position and helped lead the rollout of former President George W. Bush's No Child Left Behind Act. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Joe Buck and John Smoltz welcoming you back to the City Center Convenience Mart. Uh-oh. She's looking at the cigarettes, but she just grabs the gum off the counter. Stand Up to Cancer and Rally want you to reduce your risk for cancer. Go to takeahealthystand.org.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
This holiday season, KBLA Talk 1580 wishes you and yours joy, peace, and prosperity. As we celebrate with family and friends, we're already looking forward to an exciting first quarter, packed with must-attend events to kick off the new year just right. In January, join us for our inaugural Brotherhood Brunch, bringing together community leaders, change makers, and everyday people for inspiration and connection. February means it's time for our signature Black History Month luncheon, a powerful celebration you won't want to miss. And in March, Women's History Month, we're once again hosting our State of Black Women in Los Angeles Symposium and Luncheon, addressing the issues that matter most inside our community. From all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, happy holidays. Stay tuned for more details on these incredible upcoming events. KBLA Talk 1580, your voice, your community, your power.
If you're an adult in need of an accredited high school diploma, the Los Angeles Public Library can help. You could earn one for free in as few as 5 months, online with 24/7 access. You also get a personal academic coach, plus special training focused on 9 in-demand industries, as well as a resume and cover letter to advance your career. Visit the website at lapl.org/diploma. That's lapl.org/diploma.
In a city as big as LA, healthcare shouldn't feel far away. That's why Cedars-Sinai is breaking down barriers and bringing resources like free screenings, vaccinations, and wellness programs into local communities. From Leimert Park to Lincoln Heights and everywhere in between, Cedars-Sinai is showing up, partnering with over 200 local organizations to improve access to healthcare resources. Because care doesn't just happen inside a hospital. It happens in neighborhoods and places around the city where we live, work, and grow. Cedars-Sinai, here for LA.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with the world. African Focus Incorporated is a community-based organization whose mission is to bring Africans and African Americans together, lead charitable initiatives on the motherland, and educate people from all walks of life on the beauty, legacy, and opportunity of Africa's 54 nations. And it's that time once again when African Focus is teaming up with KBLA Talk 1580 for our 8th annual African Focus Trailblazers Tour. Travel with us in 2026 when we're headed to the southern African nations of Zambia and Botswana for a historical, cultural, and vacation tour led by me, Dominique DePrima, Cultural Ambassador for African Focus Incorporated. Enjoy luxurious accommodations, conscious fellow travelers, shopping, adventures, cultural tours, wildlife safaris, and a giant waterfall, one of the world's 7 wonders, along with a chance to be of service at an orphanage on the continent. Become an AFI trailblazer by exploring the motherland with a nonprofit organization that has members in Africa and America to help roll out the red carpet for you, and together we'll make a difference and have fun doing it. For more information, visit africanfocus.org or call 310-676-7300. That's 310-676-7300 or africanfocus.org. Whether it's stateside or exploring the diaspora, we're with you every step of the way. African Focus and KBLA Talk 1580. Come go with us.
Celebrate good times. Come on.
KBLA Talk 1580 congratulates Malik Books on celebrating 35 years in business.
It's a celebration.
Malik Books proudly houses one of the largest African American and diverse children's books in the nation. This is the perfect time to pick up holiday reads, meaningful gifts, and to support literacy in our community. For 35 years, Malik Books has stood strong in the Black Book Revolution, uplifting stories that heal, inspire, and transform. One reader at a time. Change your thoughts, change your life. Books are the gift that keeps giving. From all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, congratulations to Malik Books on 35 years of culture, pride, and community.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Quality, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Wealthy Wednesdays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, and our very special contributor, Atiba, is our regular host during this hour. He has brought today an amazing guest. Janae Mariel Smith's life shifted dramatically when her father passed away suddenly and her mother was diagnosed with dementia. Janae serves on Hilarity for Charities Care Advisory Board and Links to Equities Community Advisory Board. She continues to balance her professional achievements and advocacy with her most important role, caring for her mother, Zeddy, in their 13th year of navigating Alzheimer's and NPH. Her unique journey combines advocacy, humor, and resilience, making her a powerful voice for both caregivers and communities impacted by Alzheimer's. Janae, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show and our conversations with Atiba.
Thank you so very much. If I may have a moment, in the previous segment, Jesse, you gave a very vulnerable look into what happened when someone came to visit your dad and they decided to do something distasteful with the photo. I have had so many similar circumstances that no one is allowed to visit my mom without me in the home anymore. I had to make a hard line. I'm considered to be a witch with another first letter by many family members and many of my mom's friends. They're like, who are you? I knew her before you were born. You don't know what you're doing. And I let them have all of their opinions, because what's most important is that I keep my mom emotionally stable and happy. And then I need to have myself as grounded as possible. And if people mean her some harm, or if people are just really ignorant to the process of what it means to have dementia and how quickly things can unravel, I will wrap up this point with this one example. The IRS decided, the government's taxing system decided that I was money laundering, and they decided that my mother was dead and I wasn't claiming it. For 3 years, they made me prove my mother was alive. While they had no record of a death, there was no obituary, no funeral, nothing online, but it was from scuttlebutt talk around Montgomery, Alabama. Why did Janae, why is Jay and Zeddy in Atlanta? There must be something nefarious going on. Why would she leave her hometown? And so I had to actually let an IRS manager into my home while my mother was asleep to lay eyes on her.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Well, that was the rule in our home. We don't let people in. And somehow this particular issue got around us. But I cannot believe, and I'd like to talk some policy in maybe in the next segment about what can be done to support caregivers, Janae, because I think you have an interesting perspective and a very vital one. Atiba?
Yeah, so Jay, Jay smiles. It's really amazing to me. First of all, they not only you talk about this, but you do talk about it and the seriousness of it, but it still brings some levity to it. It kind of like the audacity. And Jesse, in terms of what you have gone through and are going through your family, for me, I don't understand that, and I don't understand how someone else doesn't have empathy from that standpoint, because the part of the role, and I think particularly within our communities, is that we try to take this route to be a caregiver to protect our loved ones, because not just because it's the right thing to do, but because we love them so much. And that love, in terms of letting someone else into that space, I believe should be respected. It should go without saying. That all said, I'm sure you have other stories, Jay, that you could share. Is there anything that comes to mind in terms of, like, with your podcast and what you're doing with your podcast, as well as what you're doing with your comedy? Is there anything that comes to mind that you'd like to share that, in terms of that makes this real, and at the same time that you found some comfort with comedy?
Yes, comedy saved my life. And when I say it saved my life, like comedy is not a living entity, but comedy gave me an escape. It gave me a place to go and not be me and not live my reality. So comedy will forever have a very special place with me as it relates to how the humor has assisted other caregivers, which is the only reason I started the podcast. And I will say this, the Holy Spirit is a bully. I didn't want to do the podcast. The Holy Spirit bullied me unmercifully every day, multiple times for 6 weeks until I said, okay, whatever, I'll do the little stupid podcast, but don't nobody even want to talk about Alzheimer's and caregiving. It sucks. Anyway, the Holy Spirit won. I'm in year 6 of the podcast, but most of the family members, we are really, our audience is for family caregivers, primarily people who have not been trained. They're not doctors, they're not nurses. You just all of a sudden, somebody you love needs you and you try to figure it out. And they're coming from all over the world. Two things that I get all the time is, number one, the family was in denial for a very, very long time about the changes that were happening in that individual. So I would tell everyone, if something in your belly is saying your mom, your husband, they're not quite themselves, take them to a neurologist, not their regular doctor, a neurologist, and have a neurological full assessment done if you can. The second thing is that caregivers feel so isolated and so alone. These are things that I'm pulling these two out that I've heard globally. They feel so isolated and so alone, no one understands. People understand if you have a newborn, you're going to be sleepy, they're going to give you some diapers. Nobody has ever sent me Depends for my mom. And her Depends cost way more than my nephew's little bitty infant Pampers. So you all could help us, but we feel so isolated and we feel scared. We don't really know what we're doing, and we don't want to even need to be doing it. So humor has helped. I have heard that humor helps them feel like they're not losing their minds and that they're not alone. Because if I'm telling a story about me or someone else that I spoke with, they can then see themselves in those examples.
I'm particularly honored that John Diggles is joining our program. John is an expert in the healthcare and the caregiving space. He's the president of Ascent Strategies. John, we have just about 45 seconds before we come forward, and I know we're going to talk about policy in the next segment. We're looking at somewhere between $500 billion and $600 billion a year, an entire economy to provide the kind of care that Janae and I, as well as Atiba, believe that the American people deserve at this stage of their lives. John, just a brief moment before we come forward.
And listening to Janae's pain, her story, what she's been through, that's a cost we haven't figured out how to measure. It's critical for us to measure because it's essential that we help caregivers in order for that to go forward.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We're going to be talking policy and how we can fix the caregiver crisis. It'll just be the beginning of a very long conversation that we will have over a very long period of time. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Established in 2020 during a time of deep racial unrest across our state and country, the Black Freedom Fund was created to make sure that leaders and organizations working to support Black communities and build power have the resources they need to stay in the fight for the long haul. We believe that those closest to the issues impacting our communities know best how to solve them. That's why in just the last 5 years, we've granted more than $45 million to over 200 grassroots organizations across California. That is the largest collective investment in Black organizing in history, and we're just getting started. We are clear-eyed and committed, more now than ever, to our people, our power, and our possibility. Join us in creating a future where Black people harness their full power to shape their lives and realize a just world for all. Learn more at fundblackfreedom.org. That's fundblackfreedom.org. The Black Freedom Fund is proud to sponsor Conversation Live Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580. Are you coughing a lot, especially at night? Are you often short of breath? Are you using your rescue inhaler often? These could be signs that your asthma is not under control. To keep your asthma in check and help prevent an asthma attack, ask your healthcare provider for an asthma action plan. This is a personalized plan you create with your doctor that shows you what to do and what medicines to help control your asthma and to use when you're having a hard time breathing or when you're having an asthma attack. Please don't wait until you're having an asthma attack. Do something about it now. Schedule a visit with your healthcare provider today to make that action plan and take control of your asthma. For more tips and resources on the management of asthma, visit luma-edu.com. This message is brought to you by Amgen and AstraZeneca.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you that we keep us safe. Every girl deserves a chance to shine. That's the belief behind Forgiving for Living, Inc. Since 1999, this organization has been empowering at-risk girls ages 13 to 18, helping them overcome behavioral and mental health challenges. Founder Wendy Gladney's personal journey inspired the mission to give girls hope and purpose through the power of forgiveness. Through their ambassador program, workshops, and annual conference, Forgiving for Living has touched over 3,000 young lives, providing mentoring, life skills, training, and tools for building self-esteem and confidence. You can make a difference. Visit forgivingforliving.org to donate, volunteer, become a mentor, or find help for a young girl in need. Forgiving for Living, Inc., building brighter futures for young girls. Visit forgivingforliving.org today. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Are you coughing a lot, especially at night? Are you often short of breath? Are you using your rescue inhaler often? These could be signs that your asthma is not under control. To keep your asthma in check and help prevent an asthma attack, ask your healthcare provider for an asthma action plan. This is a personalized plan you create with your doctor that shows you what to do and what medicines to help control your asthma and to use when you're having a hard time breathing or when you're having an asthma attack. Please don't wait until you're having an asthma attack. Do something about it now. Schedule a visit with your healthcare provider today to make that action plan and take control of your asthma. For more tips and resources on the management of asthma, visit luma-edu.com. This message is brought to you by Amgen and AstraZeneca.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. This is Wealthy Wednesdays and our conversation with Atiba. And I want to dive right in the final points of our program on policy discussions. Atiba is at a conference of Black legislators, and as the Voting Rights Act continues to be chipped away at, there'll be fewer of them in the future, by definition, as they eliminate congressional districts and redraw lines across our state, meaning that there will be fewer people in state legislatures who have Janae's experience with caregiving. And that impacts state policy. After we hear from Atiba on this, I want John Diggles, if you don't mind, commenting on what some of the national prescriptions are. And of course, Janae is a lawyer and very capable advocate on behalf of caregivers. I always leave our guests with the final 3 minutes of the program to offer a word of hope and to tell us more about her podcast and how we can be supportive of her. Atiba.
Yeah, so thanks, Jesse. Couple things. One is I know what you just said about chipping away the Voting Rights Act. I am here with a lot of state legislators. I was with Georgia folks yesterday. A big seat flipped in Georgia yesterday. That was huge, and we continue to see that. So my quick word of hope to everybody is that something is afoot and something is coming. It's just that we just have to keep doing the work. I do want to say that I hope also it's for caregivers and those who work on a public policy. And John, you may be able to talk about this a little bit, if not now, on a later show. That the DC government, I think, has an incredible program for caregivers that could be an example for others around the country. That helps caregivers, that provides things for seniors, particularly also seniors with disabilities and seniors and caregivers, and make it easier for them, especially those who have financial hardships. So I know we don't have a lot of time, but I just wanted to throw that out for folks to take a look at that. For caregivers, seniors, adults, this is the District of Columbia Caregivers Institute.
Mr. Diggles.
Well, I'm glad we're talking about it, and it's so important to share this and the pain. And this was such a good, honest conversation to advance. You know, some of the key policies that I think have to be explored and advanced with urgency are, one is that, you know, we have to incentivize employees need to do paid family and medical leave to keep caregivers connected to their jobs and income during intense caregiving episodes, which come up. So many of these are forcing job exits, and we've heard that today, or forcing people to take a step back from their career growth. We also need to look at, Congress has to look at caregiver tax credits or cash stipends, especially to help low and middle income families. This is a expensive endeavor. It's a big time intensive, but it's also a money intensive endeavor. There are a lot of out-of-pocket costs. A lot of caregivers go into debt. And, you know, there's two programs in addition to one Atiba just mentioned. There's Medicaid and Veterans Affairs funded programs that pay family caregivers a modest wage. That has happened in some states. We need to look at that at the national level. Look, one of the key things is caregivers are keeping this burden from our healthcare system. If caregivers weren't taking care of family members at home, it could crush the healthcare system. It could crush insurance. It could crush Medicaid. They're doing a national service. It's time we thanked them for it and supported them with it.
You know, I'm hoping that we will give some consideration to the Civil Rights Act of 2027, a new piece of legislation that recognizes the role that caregivers play in our country, in our society. And I think it needs to be a comprehensive piece of legislation, not only for those who need the care, but for the mental health of those who are providing the care. They've not been trained. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to administer medicine. And I mean the mental health. There are days, and I hate to say this, where I block some siblings of mine from I just can't handle it. I just need everyone to handle what's going on in their space and do the best that they can. But you can't just we go at each other's throat as a family because we want to provide the care that even nurses themselves cannot provide for members of our family. I'm so glad that Janae has brought this to us in such a forceful way. Janae, we have about 5 minutes before we completely come forward. I'd like you not only to end the program with a word of hope, but please share with us how we can follow your podcast and how we can be supportive of your work just before you give us our final word of hope.
Okay. Thank you so much. This has been refreshing because to speak to individuals like the panel that you've assembled gives me hope as somebody who's in the trenches that, hey, there are others that do care. There are people in positions of great influence and power that see us and are shaking trees, kissing babies, and maybe snatching politicians to make them understand that you got to do something right now. Parentingup.com is the website. You can find us on YouTube, also at Parenting Up. We have episodes every other week, and we are audio for those who prefer that for podcasts. Anywhere you can get a podcast, you will see Parenting Up with Jay Smiles. You don't even have to type the longer version, Parenting Up, Caregiving Adventures with comedian Jay Smiles. If you just do Parenting Up and Jay Smiles, you'll find us. And we have quite a few engagements happening in the state of Georgia where we will be lobbying with the local Alzheimer's chapter. And we will also be in February in San Diego for the International Alzheimer's Conference. So we're trying to let as many community leaders, but also just everyday citizens who have not become caregivers yet, and I stress yet, to know what in the world this feels like. Where I would like to really wrap up my point of view is with what I call the brain drain, which is the same as job exit. I was an inventor and a product engineer for Ford and Gillette, and I worked at the Cochran firm. Who knows what I could have done on other teams? Who knows if I was supposed to invent something that might have helped caregivers? But I had to leave the entire job industry or else my mother would have perished. I'm an only child. I don't have any children. I'm not married. And unfortunately, no one on either side of my family stepped up enough that I could stay gainfully employed and my mom would be okay. I so appreciate you calling it a modest wage. There is nobody that offers caregivers, family caregivers, a living wage. Because what has happened, and I've seen this with many people in our Parenting Up community, the family member who can earn the most, a doctor, a lawyer, somebody who owns maybe 2 or 3 different versions of a lawn care company, they then get somebody like me, put them in home with Big Mama, and they are now paying that person's bills and Big Mama's bills. So then they got to take on extra stuff at work. That's the best case scenario for families who figured out how to get along and do it together. I call it the brain drain because at the bottom line, the American, dare I say, the global economy are losing out on what we would bring, whether I was a Walmart greeter or flipping hamburgers. You still need them to be flipped. If I'm cutting grass, it still needs to happen. I was on the verge of solving a global problem for young women and young girls. And I had to get out of it completely because to stay attached at all would have meant I couldn't give my mother her all. I didn't want anyone who has not become a caregiver yet to know, baby, it's coming. Unless you leave this earth early, which I don't wish for you, it's coming. And you don't know what to do. We need policy and we need changes immediately so that caregivers, not only can we keep our jobs, but we can keep our mental sanity. So are you going to offer us something? You could offer us therapy. You could make sure we can still get our jobs and still get paid. And no matter what, one of the examples I try to use, which is what I'm hoping to push for with
Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580. It's a hard stop at the top of the hour. Janae, you are so wonderful. You will be back on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Thank you, Atiba, and thank you, John Diggles. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. At a rally in Pennsylvania Tuesday night, President Trump defended calling Somali immigrants garbage, then claimed Black people, quote, know a scam better than anybody, end quote.
I got the biggest vote with Black people. They know a scam better than anybody. They know what it is to be scammed.
He says Black people love him despite most Black voters supporting Kamala Harris in 2024. Martin University in Indianapolis will pause operations at the end of this semester due to declining enrollment and financial challenges, according to its Board of Trustees. Founded in 1977, it's the only predominantly Black institution of higher education in Indiana. And former Education Secretary Rod Page has died at the age of 92. Page was the first Black American to hold the position and helped lead the rollout of former President George W. Bush's No Child Left Behind Act. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Joe Buck and John Smoltz welcoming you back to the City Center Convenience Mart. Uh-oh. She's looking at the cigarettes, but she just grabs the gum off the counter. Stand Up to Cancer and Rally want you to reduce your risk for cancer. Go to takeahealthystand.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
A programming note for you. Tonight at 6 p.m. on ESPN, I encourage you to tune in to the premiere of a new 30 for 30 documentary called Booyah. It's the story of groundbreaking ESPN sportscaster Stuart Scott, who passed away in 2015 from cancer at the age of 50. Before Stephen A. Smith, Scott was the face of ESPN and raised the network's profile with his unique blend of journalism, personality, and blackness. Scott had the courage to bring African-American culture to network TV, and it paid off big time for ESPN. It also turned Scott into an iconic figure in sports broadcasting and inspired many young black broadcasters to follow in his footsteps. If you never saw Scott's highlights on SportsCenter, when he often said, "This dude is smooth as the other side of the pillow," or when he yelled, "Can I get a witness from the congregation?" Take a moment tonight to watch the legacy of Stuart Scott. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This holiday season, KBLA Talk 1580 wishes you and yours joy, peace, and prosperity. As we celebrate with family and friends, we're already looking forward to an exciting first quarter, packed with must-attend events to kick off the new year just right. In January, join us for our inaugural Brotherhood Brunch, bringing together community leaders, change makers, and everyday people for inspiration and connection. February means it's time for our signature Black History Month luncheon, a powerful celebration you won't want to miss. And in March, Women's History Month, we're once again hosting our State of Black Women in Los Angeles Symposium and Luncheon, addressing the issues that matter most inside our community. From all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, happy holidays. Stay tuned for more details on these incredible upcoming events. KBLA Talk 1580, your voice, your community, your power.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Lovely Wednesdays in our second hour. Politics of our faith. Reverend Dr. Todd Erie Esquire. Todd Erie is the principal of the Erie firm, a Maryland-based litigation and government relations firm. He also serves as senior pastor of Douglas Memorial Community Church of Baltimore and affiliates. Dr. Erie is also former chief executive officer of the Rainbow Push Coalition, international human and civil rights organization founded by my father, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, former member of the board of the National Action Network, an extraordinary contributor to our program. Dr. Erie, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Always good to be with you on a Wednesday, even when Wednesday is a little bit rainy now.
Dr. Erie, we had a very, very, very powerful program in the previous hour. I have asked John Diggles to join us just for this very brief segment, along with Atiba, because we were discussing policy prescriptions for the nearly 63 million Americans who are heading in the general direction of needing care at some point in time. We heard a powerful testimony from Janae Smiles just before, Jay Smiles, when we were in the last hour. Very, very talented. Her father worked very closely with Johnny Cochran. She's a Stanford lawyer and found a way to take care of herself by engaging in comedy. It's really, really amazing, her journey and her story, but it's one of, well, multiples of the people who take care of 63 million people who are moving through our system right now. And there is very few policy prescriptions to address these issues as comprehensively as I now know they need to be addressed, both at the federal and the state level. So I want, if you don't mind, Dr. Erie, Atiba, who will be leaving us just momentarily, and so will John Diggles, to join us in a brief conversation about the policy prescriptions, Atiba, necessary to address many of the concerns that Janae raised in the last hour.
Yeah, and thanks for that, Jesse. You know, as I mentioned in the last hour, I'm here at the National Black Caucus of State Legislators annual conference. It's their 49th annual conference. And one of the things of working on public policy that really resonates is when we hear a personal story. Just here at this conference, there was a young man who at 7 years old had the flu and lost both of his legs. He came to a session and spoke on vaccines, and his mom told the story about how she wishes that she had gotten him a flu vaccine. I mentioned that to say that this particular topic about caregiving deserves and is long overdue to hear stories of caregivers, because I believe that is what it will help to push the narrative, as well as to push for the need for more policy to address the needs of caregivers and those that they're caring for.
John Diggles, national legislation, a national approach?
National tax breaks are needed. Some cash stipends are needed. Some sort of wage support is needed. And the other thing, and we really heard this so much on a great show and a great discussion today, Jesse, is we have to increase funding for home and community-based services and broaden the training for caregivers. They're suddenly put into a situation where they have to perform some medical tasks. Let's provide them with support for that and invest in mental health services and peer support networks as well. The stress of this job really breaks down their health. We see it in all of the data that caregivers do not take good enough care of themselves. We have to help them with that.
There's an amazing article in today's New York Times. I think that they largely, quite frankly, followed what we wrote just a couple of weeks ago in USA Today. The overwhelming response from the article that I wrote has been read more than 500,000, if not more times. It's been shared 10,000 of times on various social media platforms. It's certainly bringing some awareness to this question of caregiving. But I'm looking at a quote from the article this morning that says $27,000 a year for health insurance. How can we afford that? That's the bubble of Americans that are now passing through the system that aren't part of the Affordable Care Act debate. In a real sense, they're not part of any debate about health care because we care for our loved ones. The government expects us to change our careers, to change the trajectory of our lives, stop everything that we've planned for in our lives, and turn our attention to our loved ones. And there is no infrastructure in that space whatsoever for the millions of Americans who are making those decisions right now. And the consequences for our economy are just extraordinary. Let me bring S. Todd Yeary into this, because I don't know anyone in the civil rights space who's worked harder on legislation than Dr. Yeary.
Well, always, again, good to be with you, Jesse. Here's the deal. We've got a couple of stress points when we talk about caregiving and the need for care in communities. Number one, when 1/6 of GDP is healthcare related,